All right, so welcome back again. So the goal of this unit is to talk about AJAX. So probably you've heard the word AJAX before, and what it is if you want to communicate with your server, either by getting data from the server or sending data to the server, but you don't want to do a full page reload, AJAX is the way to do that. And there's a lot of really powerful things you can do if you kind of understand how AJAX works. We're going to just do some simple things in this of how to use, jQuery AJAX on the client, and then how do you receive those in our App Engine Python backends. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's a cute little picture that kind of shows the idea of AJAX. It's a communication between client and server. Here's some terms that might be good for you to know. So some of these terms is XHR, so it stands for XML HTTP request. Really, it's an either or, right? So you could do an XML or an HTTP request. We're typically doing HTTP things, and don't let the name scare you off just because it says XML. And this is kind of the backbone of AJAX, right? AJAX, by the way, what it stands for is asynchronous JavaScript and XML. We're going to be doing JavaScript things, and the way we're going to pass messages back and forth is with JSON, or I guess this is the way the server is going to send us messages at least. So JSON is JavaScript object notation. It turns out that Python uses the same object notation, so it could just as easily be called pawn, right? So it's really just that dictionaries use curly brackets and colons between key value pairs, and arrays use bracket. That's really all JSON is. And then we're going to be using REST, so RESTful APIs. So this includes GET and POST, which are things that you've known about before. The big difference between what we've been doing before is before we've had your browser do GET and POST requests for you. So it's either gotten an entire page or it's done a post of a form, and the whole browser has moved, right? And then when it comes back, the whole page refreshes and it's a full page refresh, right? The idea of AJAX is that from your JavaScript, you issue an XML HTTP request. So you send a request to the server, so it's either a GET or a POST. And then the thing that you get back is what we're going to use is JSON data. And so the user doesn't even necessarily know that it's happening. It's just that your page now has fresh data in it. And it's a way to do communication without a full page reload. So that's kind of the idea. Probably you knew that, but it's just nice to get everybody on the same page. In this lesson, we're going to focus on GET request client side. So we've got GET and we've got POST, and we've got client, we've got server. So we kind of got 4 chunks. And so we're going to do the GET client side in this video lecture. And we're going to be using jQuery. Again, jQuery used to be really necessary for AJAX because all the browsers did things differently. But now, to be honest, there is one XML HTTP request, and you could use it without jQuery and be just fine. But since we live in jQuery land, we're going to show you the jQuery way to do these things. So how does it work with jQuery? So there's some links here. jQuery essentially has one method called AJAX that does all of their communication with XHRs, right? Then they have a whole bunch of convenience helper functions, right? So you can use AJAX and pass it. It just has a ton of parameters, right? You can use their GET function, so .get, and make a call, and so that just basically auto-populates some parameters for you. You can use GetJSON. That's the one that we're going to use here. So it says that it's a GET, and it auto-populates it to know that you're going to be receiving JSON back. So we're going to use that one. And then there's also one for POST, but we'll use that whenever we get to doing the POST, right? So we're going to use GetJSON. If you were to go click on the documentation for GetJSON, what it looks like this. So you call GetJSON on the jQuery object. One thing that's different, so this is new. Before, we've always had the jQuery object has had a reference to a DOM element. This is the first one that we've done together that doesn't do that at all, right? So there's no HTML involved here. So you're just actually calling a class method on the jQuery object. So that's a little bit different. And so we're going to be using GetJSON, and you can see that really it's just shorthand for this, right? So it's shorthand for an AJAX function call with the data type of JSON. It receives 3 parameters. The first is the URL that you're going to, so you have to tell it where it's going. That's pretty obvious. The second is if you would like to pass any data. So if you think about the URL and then you have like .html or something like that. You've seen this in Pages, and then you have a question mark, and then it says like some key equals some value. So the things that you're sending in right here populate that URL. With a GET request, it's all part of the URL string itself. That's just how GET request works under the hood. And if you wanted to pass parameters to a GET request, you totally could. We'll do that as like the last thing in an exercise. Then there's also a callback function for success. We're going to choose to do it slightly differently. We're not going to use that approach. We're going to do a very similar approach that I'll show you in the next slide, but we're not going to pass in a function for our callback there. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to use jQuery's done and fail deferred methods. jQuery changes over the years, right? So there's little changes. So before, you had to pass in that callback function, and then they came up with a different thing where you didn't pass it in, you put on a .success. And then the current thing is you don't use .success anymore, you say .done. And so it kind of looks like this. So you do a request, so this is a GET request instead of a GetJSON, to some URL. You can see that this one passed no parameters, so this is just a no parameters. And then you just tack on to the end of that .done. So .done is for success, so it worked, it's done, normal path, things are good. If it failed, you can print out a simple message, so you can just say failed and you can print out some message. This example is showing an alert box to the user. Probably, or in our examples, we're just going to print console messages if it fails. But probably you'd want to decide what you'd want to tell your user if an AJAX request failed, right? And potentially try a couple times before you've printed anything. Also, in addition to done and fail, there's another one called always. And so always is regardless if it succeeded or failed. So you can use that one if you want. To be honest, I typically use done and then I print a console message if it failed or something like that. So that's how we're going to be doing our jQuery methods. So we'll come back next time and we'll start up an example. All right, we'll see you then.